This was clear, right? I mean, like fast forward recursive merges, types of merging. We got two types of merging, right? Fast forward and recursive merging. And yep, then we'll talk about remote repositories today, right? Till point of time, we went with local repositories, right? And what do you say? My working copy and staging area. Now, whatever the changes which are there in my local repository, now I want them under my remote as well. Because I want to share it with anyone in the world, right? So did you made any practice on the sessions, right? Why we are creating branches, right? What is the use of creating the branches? How you can isolate the code and working on those particular branches, right? So let's see how you can start working with your remote branches. Yeah. So before that, yeah. So when you are working with remote repositories, right? So the remote repository which we are going to use is GitHub. GitHub is completely public. So you can directly go and store everything under your GitHub. So there is something called like Bitbucket as well. Either you can choose anyone, but GitHub is very lightweight and easy to use as well. Right? Now we are working with remote repositories, right? So if you remember in my what do you say architecture, if you go back, you see, if I'm working with remote repositories, I need to work with fetch, push, and pull. These are the particular commands which I need to work with. So that's what he's saying, right? So I'm going to my, you see, basically we do clone, pull, or push to a remote repository. In local repository, you do add, commit, right? Till point of time we just added and we push the change. I mean, sorry, we committed the changes. Now, whenever you want to work with remote repositories, you do pull or push. Or there is something called like clone as well. I'll talk about all the three things, right? And one more thing is called upstream and downstream. This is also very important. Now, for every local branch, so what is my default branch here actually whenever I'm creating a repository? What is the default branch I'm getting? Master, right? So if you see that for every local branch, there is an upstream branch that is set, right? So I have a master on my local, right? There is going to be a master on your remote as well. If you're having a dev in your what do you say local, I mean like local remote, local repository, you have the same dev under a remote repository as well. Nope. Now let's say what is the meaning of branch? It's a separate area, right? Where you are changing some things, right? Now you want the same branch to be available to other people as well, right? Now I need this dev branch under your particular what do you say remote, right? So under your local, it's called downstream, right? Under your remote, it's called upstream. Make sense? So for every master, there is also a master on remote. Let's say you created a branch called dev. Under your local repository, you have a same subsequent upstream branch called dev under remote repositories as well. Right? That is clear. So basically now, I mean like once you started working, right, you'll easily get to understand like what I'm trying to talk about. I mean like because in local, whatever you have, you need to have the same replica in your, what do you say, remote as well, right? That's the reason why let's say you created multiple branches. Those multiple branches under what do you say, remote repository are called upstream branches, right? Upstreams and downstreams. You see here origin and master is upstream and local master is your downstream, right? And you see whenever you are doing downstream, right, you do either clone or checkout. So I mean, like, I'll show you like that in the practical, then it will make more sense for you. Right. Okay. So, okay. Ignore files I'll talk about later. But for timing, let's see how you can go and create your remote repositories. All you need to do is like just go to your browser and go to github.com, right? And just sign up here with any specific username you want. Go and sign up here. All you need to do is like just sign up for this particular thing. And once you are signed up, right, you can go and log in. So currently I'm having something called like DevOps guy 9. See, this is how you get your particular interface once you log in there. Right? So by default, you'll not have any particular, what do you say, repositories by default. You need to create your own, and you see there is something called like new repository. Right? Click on this new repository and give the repository name what you want to. Right? Let's say what is the website I developed. Actually, I'm having one website, isn't it? So where is that particular website actually, if you remember? So it was there somewhere in users Ravi, right? Now let's say I'll go to that specific branch. Right, I'm here. So I'll say this is the website which I developed, right? So I'll say cd website, and you see I'm currently under my master branch, right? And if I say git branch, yeah, it has all these specific branches which we worked, and I'm having some files as well, index services and contact.html. Now this particular repository which is under my local, right, this is under my local machine. Now there is one command you need to remember called git remote hyphen v. This is an important command, just remember this, right? If not, you can take this out, git remote v. So what this command does means it will tell me if there is any particular remote repository which is attached. Do I have any remote repository right now? No, right? So if I attach, it will show me whether that remote repository has been there or not. Right? So what I'll do is like, first I'll go and create a repository here. All right? So let me say this is my website, something like 5 p.m. Right? So I am creating a remote repository under my GitHub with something called like website hyphen 5 p.m. Now I'll simply say create repository. I don't need to say anything else. Just I'll say, just I have given the name and I'm saying create a repository. Now you see, I created my repository. I got some URL for that specific unique URL. Now you see what it says git init. I already did that. Git is, see, it's very simple. It's telling you what you need to do everything. Once you do git init, say add the files, then commit the files. Right? Till this point of time, we did every time these operations. Right? But we did not do remote. Right? Now if I go back to my terminal and if I say git remote hyphen v again, there is nothing attached. To attach, this is the command you need to add. Git remote add origin. Right? So this origin is nothing but, like I told you, right, in my previous slide, you see, origin is an upstream. So this origin is nothing but just an alias name. That's it. You are giving this git remote origin, right? So this is something called like alias name. Right, now what I'll do, right, just see, I'm copying up. So what is this origin actually? This is the master in upstream. Make sense? That's the name for that. So that's the reason why you see git push origin master, master under my local, origin under my, I mean like my remote repository upstream. Make sense? Right, now what I'll do is like I'll add this particular thing. So I'll say git remote add this particular branch. Now where is my current? Right, now I'm running that specific command git remote add origin and my website 5 p.m. right? I added that. Now if I say git remotely, you see, now it attached. It went and it attached it to my website 5 p.m. That's why git remote -v is very important. It will tell whether that particular remote repository has been attached to your local repository or not. Right? Fine. Is this command clear? Right. Now once I do this, next I need to make these changes available under my report repository, right? So what is the command for that? Push. Git push is going to take the changes from your local repository to the remote repository. Okay, so I'll say git push, and now I'm going and pushing the changes. Git push -u origin and my local master. So once I do this, for me it's actually adding up straight away, but for you it will ask the username and password of your GitHub account. So once you say git push -u origin master, right, it will open one particular box and it will say give the username and password. At that time you need to give the GitHub account username and password. Right? I'm getting because I already added my SSH keys. I'll show you like how you can do that as well. Right? So this is my server right now. So it went and you see it pushed everything. See? And now if I go and if I refresh this page, my contact index and my services. Multiple for what? Usernames in the sense multiple accounts. Accounts, yes, as many accounts you want. All you need is email address. That's it. That's it. Right? Now if you see, I can get all those things. Right? Now if you see, there are 10 commits happened till point of time. You see, merging with my new feature, merging. And if you click on this specific thing, it will say what happened at the time. Here it's very easy actually in GUI. Whereas there I need to say git show all these commands, right? But here you can simply go and see like what happened at that point of time. Right? Let's say you want to see what happened at this specific commit. You see, you created, changed your particular pin code, right? But here now, if you observe, right, I'm going to my website 5 p.m. and you see, I'm only having one branch, right? But actually, how many branches I have there in my real time? So I'm having 4 branches, right? So I was having something like a bug fix, new feature 1, new feature 2, but those are not there under my these particular things, right? It was not having here. So how you are going to get that? All the branches. So what I did actually, if you see into my particular command, right? So what was the execution I did? Git push -u, only one master branch, right? Let's say you want to push all them. All. If not git push -a, I guess. Git push -a. So I'm not sure. Git push -all. Sorry. -all. So once I do this, now you see bug fix to bug fix, new feature to new feature, new feature 2 to new feature 2. Now if I come back to my GUI and if I do a refresh again, 4 branches. You see, bug fix, new feature and my new feature 2. Now let's say you want to go into new feature 1. your new feature one currently, and there are 7 commits under new feature one. Make sense? That's how you need to push your alt tags. No, origin is nothing but your master. I told you, right? Master under your, what do you say, the specific branch called local repository branch called master is going to be called origin under your remote repository. That's the alias name. That's why I told you, right? Yes. So basically, you see like all your particular branches, right? You got your master branch, bug fix branch, new feature two. But when you're pushing for the first time, you will give some name calling origin, or let's say my new, let's say any name. It's origin by default. Generally, they push with the origin for standard purpose. But let's say you can name anything you want, right? Now I can go and work with all these changes. Now, if I want someone to work with me, right? I can go to contributors and I can add them. So there are no contributors as of now. So I can go to my settings, collaborators, and I can add their names, other GitHub account users. Now they can also start working on my projects, right? And similarly, now let's say you want this project to be available to others. Now let's say what I'll do is like I will go to this particular page and I'm deleting that website. Right? My website is gone right now. My changes, commits, what I did, everything is gone. If it was not there under my, what do you say, GitHub remote repository, then the problem, right? Because there is nothing to get from. Now if I want this, right, all I need to do is like say copy this URL. So I just went there and I just said clone or download. Either you can say download or just copy this particular thing, copied it, and the operation when you want to get the code from others, you use git clone and that URL. Right now, once I do that, you see it cloned into my website 5 p.m. which I did there. Now, what I'll do cd website 5 p.m. Right, I'm going it here, and you see whatever the commits I did. If I say git ref log, you see it was saying only one change, right? But if I say git pull, okay, it's already up to date, right? Git ref log, nope, nope. Pull and no, no, pull is something like, let's say now I so told it I have something called like collaborators. Now whenever collaborator adds some changes, make sense? Now let's say this is me, right? But my remote repository is like managed by multiple people. Now you are one of the collaborator. Now you introduced one more file called something like, let's say hello.html. But do I have hello.html here? If I want that file, I'll say git pull. It will pull anything from my remote repository to here. Right? Now if I say git branch, so currently you can see only master, but there is one more command called git branch -a. Right? So by default you will only get that specific master when you clone it. Make sense? I don't know. No, if it now simply did like what I did, I updated all my code which was there under my local repository to GitHub, right? So earlier, if I'm cloning, right, what I'm getting, I'm just getting the master by default, by default. Even when I pushed, right, by default, what was going only? Master. Right, git push origin master. It went master. Now what I am doing is like I cloned it and I only got by default master. Right? Let's say I want bug fix. Because when you clone, right, you're not sure which branch to work on. Right? Let's say I am a developer. You are someone like from QA. There is some other person who is working on bug fixes. Someone working on new feature too. Now let's say I only need to work on bug fix branch. Right? Because you don't need all other branches. Why do you want to need all other branches? Let's say your work is only on bug fix. Now you say git checkout, right, bug fix. Now what it says, it started to set up your remote branch bug fix from origin, and you see it switched to the new branch called bug fix. Right? Now I am only under my bug fix. And if I say git branch now, makes sense? అర్థమవుతుంది ఇప్పుడు ఐ మీన్ లైక్ నాకు బై డిఫాల్ట్ 4 ఉన్నాయి రైట్ వెన్ ఐ పుష్ రైట్ బై డిఫాల్ట్ ఓన్లీ మాస్టర్ వెంట్ ఇఫ్ ఐ వాంట్ టు పుష్ ఎవ్రీథింగ్ ఐ సెడ్ git push hyphen hyphen all right now whenever I clone right by default I'll only get master and if you want specific branch do git branch hyphen a it will tell what are the list of branches which you have right and what it did git check out that specific branch. Now I got the branch called bugfix and I only have the files which are there in my bugfix. Right? Now let's imagine, if not, I'll make it more clear it for you. Now let's say git checkout. I'm going to my master branch. Right? What are the files I have? I got contact services index and I'm having the same files under here as well, right? So let me go to my master branch. So I'm currently under master. Yep, I am here, right? Under my master branch. Now imagine that some other person is working here. Some other person working right now. So what he did, he created a new file in some other system. Right? Then what he'll do, git add, git commit, git push. That operation I'm directly doing here. Imagine like that. So what I'll do is like I'll create a file called hello.html. Right, let me put some h1 tag and let me say something like hello and I'll commit here. This operation you are doing directly on GUI. Earlier what I need to do, I need to create the file, git add file name, git commit message. Here I am going everything in GUI. So I created the file, I have given some content and I am committing with message. So let me say this is created hello.html file and I'll say commit new file. Right now you see I got a file called hello.html which was created by some other developer. Imagine in that way. But do I have that file here? So how I am going to get that file? No. If I do clone, what is the problem? I'll get everything. First thing. Do I need everything? I only need the change from the repository. What is the change? Hello.html. Right? All I need to say git full. Makes sense? If I do git clone again, all the things will come. Why do I need all the things? I don't need all those things. I only need the changes which are there over there. Right? Now once I do git pull, what it did? hello.html. Now let's say I'll create one more file. Imagine this is another person who is working in his local machine. Let's say imagine like this is some other person. He created vi by dot html and I'll put some content saying which one like You say which one, and I'm saving up those changes. I'm doing now from CLI, so I need to do all the steps again, right? I'll say add dot git commit hyphen n created. What's the file? By dot html file, right? But is this file, I committed this, is it here? Do I have that file here? How should I get that file there? So just see, local repository to remote push, right? What I did, remote repository working directory pull, right? Now if I go back to my file again and I'll go back here. Now I need to say push. Now push is going to take all the changes called by all the changes, because there are already changes which are there here, common changes. What are the uncommon changes? Only boy.html, isn't it? Right? Now if I say git push, now you see what it did, counting 3 objects, and it went and changed it my master branch. Now if right. Now if I go back and if I do it, now you see, right? Now actually hello.html was created by some other user, right? What is the content over that? Now if I say cat hello.html, this was the content. Now let's say that person work is done, another person started working on this file. Let's say I am developer 2 right now. Developer 1 created the file called hello.html. Now I am developer 2. I need to work on that file. Now what I'll say, vim hello.html. I am the second developer right now. And I'm going here and I'll say content added by developer 2. I'm saving these changes. I'll say git add dot. I'll say git commit hyphen m new changes by developer 2. I committed the changes. This is done by developer 2. What is the work done by developer 1? It was still having hello. If I want to make those changes available there, push the changes. Makes sense, right? So whenever you are changing something like a developer, you need to always push those changes to your repository. And whenever there are some changes available in your remote repository, to get them, do git pull. So there is something called like fetch, right? I'll tell you about fetch. What is the fetch actually? Now if I want those changes, right, I need to say git push. Once I do push, the changes which are there in my local repository are going to be updated there. Yes. And if I see my hello.html, yes, I have the content added by my developer 2 as well. Right? Till this point it's clear. So how to work with your remote repositories? So remote repositories are where you are actually sharing your content across different developers. Now everyone can clone that. They can start making the commits. But before that, you need to go to the settings, collaborators, and add the other users. Right? Now let's talk about something called like merging. So what I did, so till this point of time, I was talking about something else. Sorry, I just like told one word, merging, right? Yeah. Now let's say how I can go and do the merge. I mean, like, sorry, I want to tell the difference between fetch and pull, right? So I'm doing pull, right? So what is pull doing actually? Taking the changes from your remote repository, applying those changes to your local repository. So fetch is nothing but getting the changes, not making the changes. So let's say uh, So currently, let's say hello.html is there. So it says content added by developer 2, right? This is my hello.html. I'm adding one more line. Let's say I'll edit this file, right? I'll put some content added by developer 1, right? I'll say commit changes updated by developer 1. I committed the changes. If I want these changes, right, what I need to do in my local repository? Git pull. Actually, I did pull, right? If I say git fetch, right, it says there were some changes. But if I do my cat, what's the file name? Hello.html. Do I have those changes? Fetch just went and checked whether there are changes or not. It is something like git status with your remote and local repositories, right? Now I need to say git merge. Whatever the changes which are there, now it will add. Now you see, I'll do git merge. Now if I say cat, what is it? Hello.html. Now I have the changes. So pull is fetch plus merge, right? Pull is nothing but you do fetch, you do merge in one operation. Make sense? Pull is just like one-way operation, whereas fetch and merge is two-way operation. Simple as it, nothing else. So now you need to see like the first thing your developers when they are working in your organization, right? So whenever you go as a developer, the first thing you are going to do is git pull. Why pull? Because now let's say you worked in the morning shift and you left it let's say around 6 o'clock, right? You left at 6 p.m. Now other developers start working on those files or some other files, right? And let's say from 7 p.m. to morning, let's say around like 5 a.m. changes were made by other developers who were in other country. Now do you have those changes with you? So you should never start your work without doing git pull. Git pull, because the changes which are done by other developers, you should first fetch them. You should first pull those changes to your local repository, then you start working. So in short, right, let's say when you are leaving your organization, let's say when you come to your organization, right, you do pull. Now you work all along. When you are leaving, you will say push, because whatever the changes you made, it should be available to all developers, right? So this is very important to remember. So whenever you do work, you always update with the push command while leaving, and whenever you arrive in the morning, you first do is git pull, so that you want to get all the other changes from other developers as well, right? Any doubt in this? It's clear, right? So basically today we work with remote repositories, and we know that how we can create your remote repositories and how to attach your local repositories with those remote repositories. If something goes wrong, all you need to do is like git clone. You'll get all the changes which are there. Now, if you don't add this to your remote repository, right, it will be gone. I mean, like, now let's say I added to my git remote repository, then I deleted. If you delete and you did not add to your remote repository, everything is gone. Because all those changes were present in your local machine, not on your remotes. Once you push those changes to remote, it is safe. If you did not push to remote repository, let's say you made 1,000 commits, and with some problem your machine is gone, everything is gone, right? So that is one important thing you need to remember. So if you add those changes to remote repository, then only it will be available to you. If you don't add them, it's still in your remote machine itself. Sorry, local machine itself. Right, fine. Okay. And so we talked about the branches, merging. Okay, so there is something called like ignoring files. Now, ignoring files comes helpful. Let's say you are a local developer right now, so you were testing with your own database settings, right? Do you need those files to be updated in your particular remote repository? No need, right? Why you want to update the database settings of your files to some other developers? No need. Or if not, let's say you created some notes for doing this particular project. Do you want to update those? No, you don't want to update all those things, right? But let's say you kept still under your projects. If you keep anything under your Git remote repository, what it does, it starts tracking them. Let's say it's DB passwords or HTML files, text files, anything it may be. Now you want to ignore those. I mean, like, let's say in your remote local repository, you want some certain files not to be tracked by Git. Any changes you made, whatever you do, it should not track them. That is where git ignore comes into the picture. అర్థమవుతుందా? ఐ మీన్ లైక్ లెట్స్ మీ ప్రాజెక్ట్ ఉందనుకోండి, ఆ పర్టికులర్ ప్రాజెక్ట్లో మీరు డేటాబేస్ రిలేటెడ్ క్రెడెన్షియల్స్ స్టోర్ చేశారు, రైట్? డీబీ యూజర్ నేమ్, డీబీ పాస్వర్డ్ చెక్ చేశారు. అది షేర్ చేయడం వల్ల ఏం యూస్ ఉంటుంది యాక్చువల్గా? బికాస్ ఇట్ ఈస్ లోకల్ టు యువర్ పర్టికులర్ database. You don't need those things to be available to other developers. Or if not, let's say whatever the project you are working on, right? You made some notes for that, right? Some POC for that, and you don't want that to be shared. Let's say that is one text file. You want to ignore that. That is where you use git ignore. If you add this git ignore, right, Git will not track those files. Make sense? Now, if not, let's say, so I am here currently, right? I am having some files here, right? Now, if I say touch db.xml, so I'm creating a file called db.xml. Now you see it started tracking it, isn't it? Now if I say git status, it's tracking it, right? That's the meaning of git status, right? If there is some change, git is tracking them, but I don't want this to be tracked, right? If I commit and update it, and if I say push, what happens? This will be updated under my git repository, which I don't want it, right? If you don't want this kind of scenario, I mean like you want to leave some particular files and you don't want them to be tracked, right? That is where your git ignore comes into the picture, right? Now what I'll do is like, let me say I'll remove this particular db.xml, right? And currently I'm not having any specific file. So whenever you want to work with this ignore file, right, all you need to create is a file called .gitignore. First we have to create this file called .gitignore, and in that file we need to add what type of files you want to ignore. Right, now what I'll do is like, let's say vi dot git ignore. I created this file, and what type of files you want to ignore? Let's say star.xml. I don't want any XML to be tracked. Let's say I don't want any shell files to be tracked, right? Let's say I don't want any text files to be tracked. Okay, don't do that as well. Let's say my text files and XML files, I don't want to track them. Now I'm adding them. So git ignore, you need to add it up actually to your version control system. So I'll say git add this git ignore file. If not, I'll say git dot add, and I'll say git commit -m creating what do you say, ignore files. If not, like dot git ignore, right? Now yes, I have that particular ignore file, and what type of files it's ignoring actually? XML and text files. Now let's say touch db.xml. If I say git status, right? It's not tracking it. Why it is telling that? Because I made one commit under this, right? If I say git push, my git ignore will also be added over there. I added git ignore, right? But it was not there in my remote repository, isn't it? Do I have that here? Git repo, sorry, what is that? Remote repository? No, right? It's not yet updated here. If I want to update that, what do I need to say? Git push. This will push my git ignore file. It updated my git ignore. But if I say git status, it says clean. But I have my file called db.xml. Is it tracking it? Now let's say, is it tracking it? No. Now let's say, will it track it? Right? It's going to track it. Why? Because it's not a XML file. It's not a text file. You see, it immediately changed. If I say git status, yes. But whereas it's not tracking my XML files and my text files. It making sense, right? So if you want some files to be ignored, right, that is where you use git ignore. So basically git ignore is going to avoid these particular files which you want to be tracked by your git, right? Fine. Now what do we need to talk about? Stash. Okay, I'll talk about stash tomorrow. Stashing, we don't need cherry picking. Tagging is one option. Detached head, yes, you have one more thing. Yep, maybe like tomorrow we can complete up. So before that, I'll show you one more thing. Right. Let's say now currently, let's say I'll add those changes. Git add dot git commit hyphen m added ab.html, and I'll say git push. Right, it went and updated. And if I go to my changes and if I do refresh, yes, I have my ab.html, but I don't have anything with XML and HTML files. Sorry, XML and text files. Right. Now, what I'll do is like there is something I need to talk about branches yet. So currently, let's say, okay, all right. So I'm having these particular files, right? Let's say I'll create a file called vi. If not, I'll go with this contact file. Vi contact.html is there. Right. So what is the current, what do you say, pin here? 5,72. So let me go into git checkout. What is the other branch we have? I got bug fix, but do I have that contact page over there? No, right? New feature, I guess. In new feature 2, I have the changes, right? So let's say new feature 2. This one. Git checkout. I think it's under my new feature. Acha, I understood what's happening. Git checkout. Right, if I say git branch. So I'm currently having new feature 2. What I'll do is like git checkout new feature 1. Okay, just like new feature file. Checkout new feature, and you see is set to track your new feature from the origin. I mean, like it's tracking these particular things. And if I say git status, Now it says HTML and XML are not added. The reason because there is no git ignore file in this. Making sense? Where did I create my git ignore file? Master. Right? Do I have that particular change here? No. Why? Because this branch called new feature is not having the changes from my master. Now if I say git merge master, now is it tracking it? No. Why? Because again it got my file called git ignore here. Earlier I was not having any git ignore here, but I have my git ignore here. Now it started neglecting those XML and text files. Understood? So we need to understand this point as well. Whenever you are creating this ignore in one particular branch and you are pushing it, it's not going to track them. Because that ignore is not there under my branch called new feature. Right? Now let's say vi contact.html. Yes, I'm having 572, 572 same changes. Right? Now what I'll do is like I'm making 518 and I'm saving those changes. I'll say git add dot, I'll say git commit hyphen m, I'll say updating zip to 18, something like that. Right? Now if I say here my cat, what is it, contact.html, it's having 518. Right? Now if I say git checkout master, and if I say cart, I'm having 572. Now till this point of time, whatever the merges we did, right, there were no conflicts. I mean, like, let's say I was always careful enough to say like, okay, this is not conflicting with other files. You getting like what I'm trying to say? Now there are two changes actually. So one change is under my master, sorry, but what is it, new feature branch, I changed my 572 to 518 in the same line. The same change is present under my master branch with 572. If I do merge, what should happen actually? 18. Will it? Now you say git merge. What is the branch I want to merge? New underscore feature. Right? Now if I go and say cat index dot, sorry, not index, right? Cat contact.html, it changed. Right? Now what I'll do is like I'll show you one type of another conflict. So I did not get any conflict. But let's say you are changing something under the same specific things. I mean, like, let's say you created one file, you added some data, and in one more branch you added the same data, and you are trying to merge them. Git will not understand which thing to merge actually. Right? Merge conflicts. I'll talk about that actually. So you have something called like a merge conflict concept, which is quite common if you don't follow some good practices. You see, resolving a merge conflict. So basically you need to understand how to resolve those conflicts. So when your developers are working, right, they'll always get these things called merge conflicts. So what are the merge conflicts and how to resolve them? I'll say like, I mean, like it will hardly take 5 or 10 minutes. So once we do that, we'll stop it here. Right? I mean, like if I have any diagram, right, I'll show that it would be very easy to understand with diagrams. If not, If not, I'll keep it very simple. So let's say currently I'm here, right? Now what I'll do is like, let me say vi, what example should I take? Let's say I'm going with my services, right? So let's imagine that currently our service are, I'm only having two services. Let's imagine that uh, we do the research and development, right? We do research and development, and I'm adding those changes, and I'll say git add dot, right, and I'll say git commit hyphen m, I'll say r and d, something like that, right? I inserted some changes over there, right? Now what I'll do is like git, let's say I'll create a new branch called training, right? And let's say I'll go and create another branch called something like consulting, spelling, right? So currently I'm having two branches called training and consulting. So what I'll do is like I'll check out to training, so I'll say git checkout and training, right? And what's the content which is there in my services.html? I'm having we do research and development, right? So what I'll do is like in the same specific thing here, I'll say something like we do something like, let's say, training, because I'm under my training branch, right? I did this and I saved my changes, and I'll say git add dot, and I'll say git commit hyphen m train, right? Now git checkout, let me go into consulting branch. I'm under my consulting, right? Now if I say where I am and my services, do I have what is that thing? Training here? No, I'm not having any training here. Now what I'll do is like I'll add same thing saying we do consulting as well, right? And I said those changes. I'll say git add dot, and I'll say git commit hyphen m. So let's say I'm doing my consulting as well, right? Now I'm having two specific changes, right? One is from training, another is from consulting. Okay, I did not add it in the same specific page. Okay, fine. Let's see. So now I'll say git checkout master, right? And I'll say git merge, let's say something like consulting, right? Now I'll say git merge training. What it says? Why? Because when I'm trying to do the merge, right, it is already having something called like training and consulting. Earlier we did two types of merging, fast forward or recursive. There is no conflict. Why? Because I was what do you say, cautious enough to know like what are the changes which are there here, which are there in another branch. They are automatically doing it. But sometimes git does not know what to do with these conflicts, because there is already something coming from another branch. It came, and if I try to do it, right, it says auto merging failed. What is your auto merging types? Fast forward, recursive. These are auto. You don't need to say like do the merge with this and with this. It is automatically doing depending upon what type of merging it wants. I mean, like if the master is at the same place, yes, it goes with the fast forward. If the master is moving, it is doing something like, or you say, recursive merge. But here it does not know what to do. It says merge failed, right? And what it says, fix the conflicts, then do the commits. If I open this file, right, services.html, it changed the file, it observed where the conflict occurred. Where is the conflict occurring? We have consulting, we do training, but what you need, I don't know. That's the reason why I'm keeping two together. Do the fix yourself. I am not sure which one to apply. Should I apply training or should I apply consulting? Now it's up to your duty. So your project manager is the one who is going to do this merge conflicts. So why is this occurring actually? Because there is no proper communication, first thing. Because two different developers, imagine one is working on training, another person is working on consulting, they both push this same changes together, which should not be happening. That is where you are going to get this conflicts. Now what you do? Now what you want? It's up to you. Do you want consulting? Do you want training? Or do you want both? Let's say you want both. Now you go there, you delete this thing, you delete this line, you delete the specific changes, and save the changes. Once you save the changes, now you need to give some specific message for that. We'll say git add dot, and I'll say git commit -m conflict resolved, need both training and consult. Now it says conflict resolved. Now if I go and check services, yeah, both the things. So conflict is basically proper miscommunication, or let's say there is no correct architecture which is defined for your developers. Then you basically get this merge conflict. This is also one of the important aspects. So whenever you do, right, so that's the reason why it says resolving the merge conflicts. So that's all you need to say. So you'll take to that particular place and just solve those problems which are there. So it will, whenever you do the merge, whenever the merge conflict occurs, right, Git will directly give those arrows like head, 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 any changes which are there. Now you are the one need to decide whether I need this change or this specific change. Depending upon that, you commit with a new particular message. That's how you are going to solve your merge conflicts. I mean, like you understood, right? When is merge conflict occurring actually? When there are same changes coming from different branches, Git does not know what to do with this. Because it was not same, right? It will either applied auto, fast forwarding or a recursive. If auto merging fails, then you are the one who need to fix those conflicts, right? So merging will only fail if it cannot do auto merge, right? So you also try to do the same thing, like how you can go and basically try to do the same thing, like try to get some conflict and see how to fix those conflicts as well, right? So today, like we have seen, like how you can push the changes to your remote repositories. Like you can push all your changes to remote repositories, and one more thing is how to fix the merge conflicts and how do they occur actually, right? Tomorrow we'll go with the stashing. Maybe like tomorrow we can end up with the Git. So there is one more thing called like stashing, how to undo the changes as well. These are two important topics. And there is something called like tagging. Tagging will make sense when you are working with Maven kind of tools. So once you are entering to the build tool, right, in your release management, tagging comes into the picture. I'll show you tagging Git. I mean, like Git is not yet completed. There are lots of things to do. It will come at different phases. So there is something called like webhooks in Git, which we need to check at your Jenkins time. So this will still continue like this till point of time. Like we have seen, like how we can make the changes. I mean, like how to commit the changes, how to push those changes to your remote repositories, how to get the changes from remote repositories to your local machines, right? And if there are any conflicts, how we are going to conflict, and what are the types of merging that occur. Auto merging, right? And there is manual merging, which will occur basically if the conflict occurs between the mergers, right? Tomorrow we'll see something called like stashing and how to undo the changes which you made. Once that is done, then there is something called like tagging, which and there are like webhook concepts which occur like across different topics, right? Maybe like tomorrow we can end up our git session, right? So I'll stop it here today. I mean, like, you got any doubts till point of time what we did? Is it clear? Working with remote repositories is very important.